Om Satchidananda Rupaya Vishwotpatyadi Hetave Tapatraya Vinashaya Shri Krishnaya Vayam Numaha. Janmadhyasya yatonvayadi taratascharteshvabhignaswarat Tene brahmahridaya adi kavaye muhyanti yatsurayaha Tejo vari mridam yatha vinimayo yatra trisargo mrisha Dhamna svena sada nirasta kuhakam satyam param dhimahi Dharma projita kaitavotra paramo nirmatsaranam satam Vedyam vastavamatra vastu shivadam tapatrayon mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kim Vaparerishvaraha Sadyo Hridya Varudyate Tratkritibi Shushrushubistatchanat. Hari Om and greetings from Niagara Falls. One day when Yudhishthira had gone to the palace of Dhritarashtra, he saw Sanjaya crying. And he asked Sanjaya, "Where is my uncle? Where is my aunt Gandhari? Where is my other uncle, Vidura?" And Sanjaya continues to cry and says, "They've all left the kingdom and they've begun their yatra." And Yudhishthira becomes quite despondent, quite depressed. And in that moment, Rishi Narada comes. And Rishi Narada asks, "Yudhishthira, you're to be the Raja. How can you be despondent and depressed?" And he shares that I'm worried for my family members. And Rishi Narada says to Yudhishthira, "Jivo jivasya jivanam," which means those who are living live on those who are living. Now what this means, and he gives a comparison of this. Imagine you're being swallowed by a python. Okay? Imagine that deeply. I'd like to see how your face changes as you're imagining that. Now, your family member is also being swallowed by a python. And you're worried that you want to save your family member from being swallowed by a python. What's the point in worrying when you yourself are being swallowed by that python? That python is time. The time is swallowing us. And we're worried about saving other people from being swallowed up by time. The perishing cannot save the perishing. I'm perishing. I can't help you. You're perishing. You definitely can't help me. Only the permanent can save the perishing. Only someone outside of quicksand can help someone who's in quicksand. Which shows the importance of Srimad Bhagavatam because we're looking to, we are asking for help from the one who is permanent. So what is the permanent going to do to us? God, the scriptures will teach us that we are not this body. The part of us that is perishing is the body. And you're not the body, so you're not perishing. Now that may be too demanding for us to appreciate. God, the scriptures will not save us from death, but will save us from the fear of death, the bhaya. If bhaya is here, the expression of bhaya is krodha. No fear, no anger. Imagine not being angry. Living would be totally different, no? Where does fear come from? Attachment. Again, imagine living free of attachment. Where does attachment come from? Expectation. All of the family people, you're listening carefully to what I'm saying. Imagine no expectations, no attachment, no fear, no anger. And if there's no expectations, there's no ignorance. That's what God in the scriptures will do for us. In our last class, we tried to orient ourselves towards some of the dialogues. There's lots of dialogues. Each time I'll try to, like a magnifying glass, highlight some of the dialogues and share it a few times so that we pretend like we know who's talking to who. Rishi Shaunaka is asking Rishi Ugrashravas. That's the most immediate dialogue. And Rishi Ugrashravas goes into the past and said, Raja Parikshita asked a similar question to Rishi Shuka. And Rishi Shuka goes further into the past and says, Rishi Vidura. Does anyone know what Vidura was called? What his common name was? Mahatma. Vidura was known, people described him as Mahatma. Mahatma Vidura is asking of Rishi Uddhava, who says, I can't explain to you, but who is going to explain to you is Rishi Maitreya. Okay, so these are the dialogues that we're looking at, from most immediate to past to past. Rishi Maitreya is explaining to Mahatma Vidura about creation. Now, in Sanatana Dharma, how many creation theories are there? You want to answer one, but the answer is definitely not one. How many creation theories are there? 64. If you study the Upanishads, specifically, that's the authority in Sanatana Dharma, there's 64 creation theories. And you know what the highest creation theory is? Should I tell you or just keep moving? There is no creation. The creation theory in Sanatana Dharma, no creation theory. That's the highest. But difficult to appreciate, which is why you have to take 64 steps away, get oriented, and then come back to the truth. So let's go to the second creation theory. If, this is capital IF, if there's creation, this creation has come from the Creator. All that's created, me and you, have to have a creator. This creator in Sanatana Dharma is symbolized as lying down on seminal fluid, which then we poetically say the Milky Ocean, yes? The word seminal means original. The word seminal means potential. The creator is lying down on this body when there's no creation. But then from this potential the Creator ignites this originality, this potential, and does so in the form of Adhi Atma. Adhi Atma is when the Creator wants to experience smell, wants to experience sound. So Adi Atma, the organ is created. Then Adhi Bhuta, each organ has an element associated with it, right? If I want to hear, so the ear is created, and the element that will help the ear to function is space. Okay? So Adi-atma, that's the micro. I gotta get my words correct. Adi-atma is micro, the organ in me. Adi-bhuta is then the macro then, correct? That's like the organ of the universe. What's the organ's universe when it comes to sound? Space. When it comes to seeing? Fire. So there's a micro and there's a macro. And what's a new fad in science now? Quantum. That's the Adi-deva. Adi-deva is the one who organizes all of this, the one who facilitates this micro and macro. So there's a deva associated with each element that's associated with each organ, like Agni Devata. Okay, so if there's creation, this has all come as the Creator simply wanting to express. I distinctly remember when Swami Tejomayananda was teaching us about creation theories. Someone had asked, why does God create? And Guruji said, Meri Marzi. So imagine you met God and asked God, why did you create all of this? And God will say, Meri Marzi. Meri Marzi means because I felt like it. I wanted to. I'm God. If there's creation, the creation theory is Meri Marzi. So simple. We continue. We're on the third skanda, and now we're going to the seventh adhyaya. The seventh chapter. We're going to read the 10th shloka, the 10th verse, lines 1 and 2. Yadarthena vinamushya pumsa atma viparyayaha pratiyata upadrashtuhu swa shira chedanadikaha. Which means, in a dream, a pumsa, a human, can dream swa shiraha cheda. One can dream that they've cut their own head off. Is this possible in a dream? Yes or no?
Yes.
I don't know if you do dream like that. If you do, maybe you should study something different than Bhagavatam. But the potential is there, right? That you can dream this. And when you wake up, has anything happened to your head? No. That dream has no bearing on the waking state. In the same way, when the Creator engages in Meri Marzi and all of this creation comes, it's like a visualization, an imagination, a dream, when in actuality, factually, nothing has changed with the Creator, with existence, awareness, joy. That's what's shared in this line. Okay? You thought Bhagavatam was about stories, right? So let's try to internalize this. We have a propensity to create. We build our homes, we establish companies, we facilitate ashrams. We like to create. And then what happens to our relationship with our creation? We get chained by the same creation, isn't it? We become house holders. I still don't understand why it's described as house holders. With our businesses, Even when we leave the office, all we think about is what happened, what's going to happen. The ashram is no different, right? Who's going to open, who's going to close, who's going to pay for the utilities. We create and then are chained by it. But this only happens to humans. As an exercise, and it's unfortunate we only have really half an hour for this class. During the discussion, what I want you to do is take off one piece of article that you're wearing. It could be an earring, a watch, etc. And I want you to give it to someone in your study group. You think that earring or watch cares whose hand it's in? If I give my phone to a study group member, does my phone care if it's in his hand or my hand? So articles, they're not attached, they're not chained. Same goes with circumstances. When it rains a lot and we're all outside playing and then it becomes sunny and suppose it's too hot, we come inside. Do you think the rain cares that we're not outside anymore? The rain is, oh, my ego is hurt. Articles and circumstances, they're also creating, but they're not chained. It is only beings. Why? All of our being bound is ego-based. The ego is that which makes one feel unhappy and makes us think that if we have more articles and more circumstances and more beings, then we will be happy. Is that possible? It's not possible. I just shared with our Balavar students, we're exploring Hanuman Chalisa. As long as you try to be happy tomorrow, you will always be sad. And when you start to try to be happy today, you will be happy. But every high school student's waiting to go to university, correct? Every university student is waiting to be free of their parents' home and their monitoring of their debit card. And on and on and on. This ego is expressed as thoughts. The more egotistical one is, the more they think, overthink. The less egotistical one is, the more quiet their mind is. All of the happiness and sorrow we know in our lives is really thought-based, isn't it? I think I'm happy. And when my thoughts change, my happiness goes. So really, it's not real. It's just the presence and absence of that thought. The same goes with sorrow. I'll discuss more about this in our meditation and life course. If you can remember what's bothering you a lot right now, hoping it's not me, something that happened this week. And then if you're really enjoying this class, which I hope is true, you forgot about what's bothering you until I reminded you right now, correct? See how when we are absorbed in a certain activity, then our thoughts shift. The happiness and sorrow comes and goes. In Srimad Bhagavatam, what Rishi Maitreya is sharing to Mahatma Vidura, this is a defect. This bondage, which expresses as thoughts, is a defect, and the only way to fix this defect is devotion, bhakti. When you love that which is beyond the ego, which really means you love the Creator, I no longer am in love with my thoughts, or do I get chained by creation? Because I love the Creator now. This is how this defect is fixed. And I'll use different words for that. The more devoted one is to the Creator, the more accurate their lifestyle becomes. The more accurate they are with their words when it comes to communicating with people. People who lack bhakti in their lives, they tend to be conceited. They tend to exaggerate. But people who have a love for the higher, they're not focused on themselves, they're focused on the Creator. they don't need to exaggerate. How many of you, the last time you applied for a job, you put down on your resume exactly what your history was, your skill set? How many of you put 100% you can back all of this up in a very overt way? Can I see your hands? Okay, maybe this is the wrong group to ask. You should ask your coworkers about that. You should call them out. Can I see your resume? You really worked that long? You really had that many responsibilities? Some more details that are shared in this section. There is two types of people who are happy. Those who are completely attached and those who are completely detached. Seems quite illogical. Those who are completely attached, they're incapable of doubt. So they don't think about anything more than their actual experience. So they call themselves happy, but we know that it's just pleasure. And those who are completely detached are also incapable of doubt. They're detached from all of creation. They have no doubt about the Creator. Okay, so two types of people are happy. Those who are incapable of doubt because of attachment or detachment, and everyone in between are the ones who are sad and cry. So when I say everyone in between, I mean everyone who's studying Vedanta and Bhagavata. Because we're not completely attached, and I don't think we're completely detached, so we're stuck. We're stuck in between. So what to do? Rishi Vidura, or Mahatma Vidura, asks Rishi Maitreya, Swato jnanam kutaha pumsam bhaktir vairagyam eva va. So I need bhakti to cure me of my defect. How does one get jnana, vairagya, bhakti? How does one get that? Can one get that by themselves? Can I get knowledge and independence and devotion by myself? And later on, Rishi Maitreya tells Mahatma Vidura that you cannot do this by yourself. This is only possible through the Guru Shishya Parampara, that this knowledge, independence, devotion can come. Now I'll tell you a side story relating to this. When Mother Ganga was asked to leave Vaikunta, see, her origin is the feet of Bhagavan Vishnu. And Mother Ganga is looking back at Bhagavan Vishnu and says, I know you want me to go to where humans are, and all of those humans that come to me, that they will be freed of their papa, that they will become pure. But eventually, won't I become impure? When I collect all of this dirt, won't I become dirty? Mother Ganga is asking this to Bhagavan Vishnu. And he says, logically what you're saying is true. So what I'll do is I will send all of my messengers, all of these sadhus, to come into you and purify you. What an amazing teaching. That sadhus, the Guru Shishya Parampara, Mahatma Vidura, they go on yatras to purify those places. We go on yatras to get purified by those places, but they would get dirty, right? It is the Guru Shishya Parampara that goes to these rivers, to these mountains. And what do they do there? They create satsang. That's what happens there. They'll sit on the bank of the river and they'll contemplate, they'll teach a class, they'll set up a mandir and ashram, correct? They're not selling churis or laddus. They're there creating satsang to make that more pure. Guruji Swami Tejomayananda had shared the only tapa in life is Brahma Vidya. Tapa means to burn, to purify oneself. Brahma Vidya means knowledge of who you are. Srimad Bhagavatam. And those who are not engaged in tapa, if you reverse the letters ta and pa, it becomes pata. What does pata mean? To fall. To fall. In other words, one continues to become careless, selfish. So, the question is, or the observation is, we create, we get bound. It's because of the ego. Bhakti is the way beyond the ego. Bhakti comes from the Guru Shishya Parampara, which is why we begin Hanuman Chalisa by chanting Shri Guru Charana Saroja Raja, right? Being at the feet of the Guru. Even Rishi Vyasa has a Guru, which we had explored last week. One more shloka that is so cool, is so fascinating about creation. Okay, we're in lots of details about creation. I'm still on the third skanda. I'm on the 9th adhyaya, the 9th chapter, the 35th shloka, lines 1 and 2. Rishim adyam na badnati papiyam stvam rajogunaha yanmano mai nirbadham praja samsrijatopi te. Bhagavan Brahma is asking Bhagavan Narayana, who am I? What am I supposed to do? Bhagavan Narayana responds to Bhagavan Brahma in this particular shloka, saying, you are the first rishi. And you're right, creation requires rajas. And rajas is that which traps one, which makes one selfish. But you know me. You know that I'm the source. You dedicate all you do to me, and you will not be stuck. You will be free. Now, this line alone is enough of a practical detail for us. We feel now we have our homes, we have our jobs, we have our seva. The more I do, the more stuck I feel. Who are you doing it for? And if you're doing it for yourself, obviously you're going to be stuck. But if you're doing it for the divine, you will feel more selfless, more virtuous. Okay, what happens at the end of chapter 7, chapter 8, the beginning of 9? Pralaya has happened. Pralaya is when all the effects go into the cause. That's why it's called the causal state. What a simple way to understand pralaya. All of the effects go into the cause. When we go to a goldsmith and we put all of our jewelry into that, when you put all of your jewelry into that, that's pralaya, correct? Pralaya for bangles and nose rings and watches and so on. So now I describe that. Bhagavan Narayana is lying down in this milky ocean. All of the seeds or vasanas of all of creation is in him. But it's latent, dormant, unmanifest. Okay? All that gold is still in that pot, correct? It's just not in the shape of an earring, etc. It's still there. Bhagavan Narayana is in his yoga nidra, as if he's sleeping. Now, we also engage in what we think is yoga nidra, but it's just stress and anxiety. That's why we can't sleep fully. This is very different. Before Bhagavan Narayana slept, and I really wish, I pray that you can read each shloka the way that I am. It says, Bhagavan Narayana told time, wake me up after this certain amount of time passes. the first alarm clock. It's shared that he told time, after this period passes, you come in, stir me. Kala has a job, the original alarm clock. You should create an alarm clock company called Kala. So time comes and says, whispers in Bhagwan's ear, it's time to get up. Throw some of that milky ocean on his face. When Bhagwan is engaged in his yoga nidra, he only opens his eyes halfway, like Bhagwan Shiva. That they see all of creation, but they never forget who they are. Then, when Bhagwan Narayana, he feels all of this unmanifested presence in him, when he penetrates all of these seeds, the stalk of a lotus comes out of his navel. The stalk comes, from that stalk comes the lotus, and who's seated on that lotus? Bhagwan Brahma. Now Bhagwan Brahma is looking around and he can't see anything. So he looks forward, then he looks to the right. When he looks to the right, another face manifests. Back, left, that's why he has 4 faces. All of the directions were originated from Bhagwan Brahma. I am reading a book to Vyasa. It's called Mortimer by Robert Munch. Have any of you read this book? Okay. You should read it. Vyasa loves it. And in one point, the father is so annoyed that the son, Mortimer, won't go to sleep. So Vyasa can relate to that. And the father is reading the newspaper. So I'm trying to teach new words to Vyasa. Do you know what the word news stands for? North, east, west, south. So news came from the directions, and directions came from Bhagwan Brahma. Bhagwan Brahma came from Bhagwan Narayana. See? Everything goes back very systematically to the Creator. So now these 4 faces are there, and Bhagwan Brahma still can't see anything. So then he looks down and he sees that stalk. So he starts going through that stalk, and then that stalk he thinks is in the water. So he tries to go to the bottom of that milky ocean, but he can't find anything. And in his sense of defeat, he comes back to that lotus and starts to contemplate. And when he contemplates, he realizes or finds the Spirit. Please, as I'm sharing this, try to see how we are like this. We don't know who we are. We don't know where to go. So what do? We go further into creation. Pleasure, possession, position. But all we feel is defeat, no? Despite that defeat, we still go into creation. But Bhagwan Brahma, he accepted, I'm not going to find peace here. So he starts going inside and finds that peace. And when he finds Bhagwan Narayana, from creation to creator, this is a famous portion of Srimad Bhagavatam. It is Bhagwan Brahma's stuti to Bhagwan Narayana. Bhagwan Brahma's hymn. And some of the philosophical points, this is long. Some of the philosophical points for all of us. Bhagwan Brahma says, we bring in more dravya and more suhrid into our lives. What does dravya mean? Materials. We chant that with Arti. Suhrid, friends. We keep bringing more materials and more friends into our lives, but we keep feeling more bhaya. True? More money, more problems. That's true. The more people you bring into your lives, the more birthdays you have to go to, the more weddings you have to go to, the more people you have to invite to your housewarming, more problems. That's why I tell you, date yourself. It's easy, it's cheap. So Bhagwan Brahma says this. He says that we, and he's even talking about himself. Bhagavan Brahma is comparing himself to us. He says we toil all day and then can't sleep at night. So true. We work all day. We check our emails when we're in bed, in the bathroom we're listening to the news, we're thinking about meetings over our drives, we're checking the computer while we're eating, when we come home we're at dinner but we're really not there, and then we can't sleep at night. This is because why we're doing is unclear. We're not intentional with our actions, with our words, with our thoughts. Bhagavan Brahma says, he's referring to Bhagavan Vishnu here, I know that complicated rituals do not please you. Those exact words are used. Complicated, ritualistic worship does not make you smile. What does is universal benevolence. When someone's engaged in complicated ritualistic worship, they think the Creator's only in that particular form and name. But when someone's engaged in universal benevolence, they smile for people, they take up professions that are service-related, they give all of their resources and time, they think the Creator is in all of these forms, all of these names, correct? Now, who's going to hit your ego? Is Bhagavan Krishna's Murti going to hit your ego? Or is the person on the plane who takes that middle armrest, which is really, it's international waters. We don't know whose space that is, but they're taking more of that armrest than you are. That whole flight you're thinking about that, correct? Who's going to hit your ego? Universal benevolence is what makes you happy. And so Bhagavan Vishnu says to Bhagavan Brahma, don't be depressed. Don't be despondent. These exact words are used. Don't be depressed. Don't be despondent about your responsibilities. You are the Creator. Be dedicated to me. Know what your intention is. Know the why of what you're doing. And you will always smile like I do. Nana.